Before releasing on June 20th, 1972, the success of Steven Spielberg's Jaws was anything but certain. The young director had only two feature films under his belt, and his most recent work, Sugarland Express, was pulled out of theaters by Universal after just 2 weeks. Production troubles tested the limits of Spielberg's $8 million budget, and at that point, summer was not the obvious time of year for such a release. But we all know how things turned out. When the Universal producers heard John Williams' ode to imminent doom for the first time, they must have known they hit the lottery. Maybe not $478 million, but there's magic in the first 60 seconds that nobody can miss. And the film's greatness only builds from there. It's exciting, funny, terrifying at times, and driven by relatable, likable characters. Studios nowadays spend hundreds of millions of dollars to capture what Jaws was able to do with a fraction of that, and they just can't do it. So why not? What ingredients are missing? The list is not short, but what I would place at the top is emotional depth. Jaws is not out for just laughs and screams. When characters decide to be vulnerable, we feel it, and our bond to them strengthens. Think about this scene. Brody has just been slapped by the grieving mother of Alex Kintner, and he knows that her condemnation was true. He should have fought harder to keep the beaches closed, so he's partly responsible for the tragedy. Now, unlike the men who persuaded him to keep the beach open, Brody is really beaten down by the boy's death. He can't eat, he can't talk, he can hardly look up from the dinner table. But as he wrestles with the guilt of his choice, his son starts to mimic him. And once Brody recognizes it, they share a really beautiful father-son moment. It feels very spontaneous and authentic. This is a good father and husband who we can't help but root for. After this scene, it's less surprising that the movie gives 4 minutes of screen time for a fisherman to tell a story from his past. A story that would turn out to be one of the great moments in the history of cinema.
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief.
I've replayed Quint's speech more times than I can count. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And I want to take a closer look at what makes the scene so captivating and how it connects to the larger themes of Jaws. To do that, we need to look at the first half of the story, which features very little of Quint. He scratches a chalkboard, eats a cracker, demands a bounty for the shark, and then leaves. It's a badass scene, one of the best introductions in cinema as well. However, the first half of the movie is about the community and how they respond to the attacks. Quint is more of an outside force that people would prefer to avoid. So there is a tragedy. A girl goes into the water and does not come out alive. In a perfect world, there would not be a wide range of responses to this. In a perfect world, everybody reacts like Brody. This is a horrible loss, and we need to take the proper measures to ensure it does not happen again. Easy enough. But as Brody soon finds out, perspective is shaped by many factors, and it's impossible for an entire community to share the same attitude towards anything. There's a great line from later in the movie that highlights this.
Doesn't make much sense for a guy who hates the water to live on an island either.
It's only an island if you look at it from the water.
So for Brody, the girl's death is an extreme safety hazard. But for the mayor, it's an extreme economic hazard. This is a town where nothing bad ever happens, except kids karate chopping fences. So the mayor convinces himself that this is a black swan event, a one-off. And to turn it into anything more would only serve to drive people and their money off the island. Now, when Alex Kintner is killed, you would think, okay, now people are going to see this threat the same way. But they don't. For the mayor, it remains mainly an economic problem. For the fishermen who venture out to kill the shark, it becomes an economic opportunity. And for some islanders, the whole thing is a joke. Because for many people, things only become serious when the proverbial shark takes a chunk out of your leg, or someone you care about. Quint has a much more complicated perspective. It is a financial opportunity, yes, but more than anything, it's a chance to confront his fears and take revenge. He's Captain Ahab. Something was taken from him, and he wants to settle the score. I should preface, and I don't need to because it's obvious, but Robert Shaw's acting here is some of the best ever. Even before the actual monologue begins. Hooper makes a joke about the tattoo Quint had removed, and look at this reaction.
What is it?
There's so many emotions there. They're having a fun night, so he doesn't want to kill the mood. He's also considering whether he wants to tell the story. And then the hand to calm him down once he decides, okay, I am going to tell the story, and it deserves reverence, respect. Before the tale begins, the hat comes off. Quint becomes vulnerable. He was a one-dimensional, vulgar ship captain, but now he becomes something more. It's a major turn for the character, and that is partly why it's so damn good. The tension of the monologue builds. He's carrying in the lighthearted mood at the start. He kind of has a little smile as he describes the torpedoes and why there was no distress signal. He's also trying to play down how this calamity affected him. But that does not last. After he takes a drink here, the mood changes. He becomes more serious as he describes the massacre. An eerie score also kicks in. I'm not sure it's needed, but it does.
You know the thing about a shark? He's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
And then at certain points, you can see some anger. I've always loved this knocking on the table. When Quint remembers Herbie Robinson's death, Brody and Hooper look at each other like, can you believe this? If I saw Jaws in 1975, I would look at the person sitting next to me the same way. This is insane. The story and Robert Shaw's acting. Every line, every motion, every facial expression is perfect. It's impossible to imagine a different actor doing it. And the ending. The ending is the best part, I would argue.
Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
It's almost like Quint is raising the curtain again. We delivered the bomb. The mission was completed, that's what matters, so don't ask any questions and don't try to empathize. Let's return to our drinks. I'm back to being who you expect. But the final line also connects to the first half's main theme. From Quint's perspective as someone who experienced a tragedy, it's a life-altering moment. But for American leadership, yes, it is a major loss and people need to be held accountable. That's a whole other story. But in the grand scheme of things, they delivered the bomb. The bomb was dropped, the war ended. And for American citizens who did not lose family members, that is also what matters. It's war, tragedies happen. What matters is winning and ending the continuous bloodshed. It's tragedy on top of tragedy for Quint. His friends died horrifically, then their deaths were overshadowed by the success of their mission. It's hard not to root for Quint after this monologue. But when he's eaten by the shark, it feels destined. It does not come out of left field. And it feels expected because he commits the same sin as the mayor. He is so obsessed with his personal interests, justified or not, that he gambles with the lives of Brody and Hooper. That's the message we're taking from Jaws. If you pursue your desires at the expense of others, you may doom yourself as well. Doom your reputation, your relationships, maybe even your life. We usually know what the right thing to do is. We have moral intuition. We can lie to ourselves to avoid doing what's right, like she was killed by a boat propeller. But it's not like Brody has a moral quandary at the beginning when he needs to decide on closing the beach or not. He knows that he should close the beach, but he doesn't because of weakness. If we rely on that instinct instead of personal incentives, things work out better for everyone. Because life is very similar to the deck of the Orca. It's slippery and constantly being rocked by waves. We need moral principles to keep us grounded. If our often flawed desires become the guiding principle, a slip will come sooner or later.